we've had freezes for many years. I've been working over 40 years, and we've had freezes on freeze many years. And the most difficult one we had was in 2007. And the reason it was the most difficult one is because we were further along and got a bigger temperature drop than we'd ever had before. Most of the time before we would be up in the peak 6, somewhere in there, you get a freezing, you get filling of the pits down there low. It usually has to be up higher, always a little bit more on no-till than others, because the measurements that we've made over the years shows that in a no-till situation, that on a freeze in early spring, that we would a lot of times get 3 to 4 temperature difference, or bigger drop in no-till than we did in conventional. If you have the surface of that soil covered, then the sunshine that comes in and warms the earth doesn't really get to the earth as much. And so at night, when that temperature re-radiates from the soil and keeps it warm around the plant, there's not as much of it there when you have that blanket of residue over the surface. So it makes a difference. You get right before dawn when that cold temperature usually comes. So you're usually going to experience a little bit more hit there. Now, if you get hit hard enough, like we did in 2007, now if you look at those yields that he showed in 2007, you got a 80% drop in yields on the purchase area in 2007. And the fact, and then when you get up to Lexington, there was like a 20–30% drop in that area up there. So there was a big difference. And you always have your old wheat's always further along in the purchase than this area. I don't know about the difference in temperatures nights, but we just simply had wheat further along in that eastern freeze in 2007 we never had before. So usually we sometimes get freezes that weren't as far along. Normally occur peak 6. We'll get freezes, but they're not devastating, and the yields aren't that low or hurt that much. Now, in 2007, when we had, and that's the year that was the worst, and that's the year we had the most termination of growth, and people usually went to corn that year. I don't know why. It looks like Greg did a great job of talking about what we should go this year. So if we go that way, if we go to soybeans this year, if y'all replant, and you go to soybeans this year, then you're asking about nutrient carryover. There's not. Phosphorus isn't a thing you consider because there's not much phosphorus in the plant. It's taken up at this time. And so that's not even something you even think about. Potassium, most of those cells will rupture once you kill them. If you spray them over and they'll rupture and potassium will bleed out, so that's not much of a problem. So the main problem would be nitrogen if you went to corn. In 2007, when we looked at the amount of nitrogen taken up in cover crops. Now, there wasn't any, let me start off with saying, there wasn't any specific research in 2007 on how much nitrogen taken up and will be available to the corn plant that's subsequently planted. So our best estimate on looking at data from other somewhat similar situations, of course, cover crops and not taken up, and what we think will be in the plant left over, and making those estimates, we come up with a 50% of the nitrogen that you apply to your wheat crop would be available to the following corn crop. And I didn't do any experiments that year, but what I got back from farmers that told me they said that was too high. And that in a lot of cases that 50% was too much estimate. And so if you go to corn, then my best guess is that figure about a third. About a third of what you put down will be available to the corn. I'm not sure what all goes into the fact that 50% was too high. So that was based on some data, but a lot of stuff is swag. You do the best you can. So if I was going to do it again, so that pretty well does my part of the talk. Unless there's one or two questions. And if anybody has any questions tomorrow on this, be sure and call John because I'm going to Florida.
Thanks, Lloyd. What I wanted to do is to actually give you some numbers based on some recent data that Edwin Ritchie got on some wheat here at the station. This first one, basically this was wheat that was being grown for the wheat field school. We wanted to understand how many nutrients were in it. Now right now, frankly, this growth stage, peaks 5, we're way ahead of that. Okay, we're at peak 7 on a lot of this wheat. So, but this gives you an impression of what can happen when you've applied fall nitrogen and you've got some extra growth here. You've also got some increase in the tissue nitrogen, and this is the amount of nitrogen uptake that we had at peaks 5. Now we'll probably have a little bit more, but not as much as you might think because the plant is growing and it's diluting the nitrogen. So these numbers would go down a bit, but the biomass, dry matter, would go up quite a bit, and then you're in uptake. So what Lloyd was telling you, take about 1/3 of that if you're going to go to corn, and that third will be about what you can take the credit for against. If you're burning this down using some of the products Chip talked to you about, that's what you're going to be using as your kind of a baseline. If you want to get your own numbers, you can still do that. We recommend you take some samples from known segments of row, say cut off everything about 1 inch above the surface, cut it all off from 1 foot row segments so that you can apply a formula to it. Send that tissue to Waters, get a nitrogen, get P and K on it too, and then you can get an updated estimate of this. Remember, parts of fields are going to be different than other parts of the field. Those wetter areas will have lost some of the nitrogen. Crop will also be a little bit more nitrogen depleted. In other words, you get a lower tissue in on those lower, but for those fields where you feel like you're kind of too much scientific wild ass guess, then you might want to consider taking a sample and sending it off. And take it from a known area so that, or known length of row, so that you can then do these calculations and estimate. On the P and K side, for those of you going to full season soybeans afterward, Lloyd is correct. All this, I put these in K2O equivalents, not Ks, because that's really how you buy potash in this case, but it will all be made available from that wheat crop to the soybean crop because, as Lloyd said, as those cells break apart, potassium just comes out and goes back into the soil. Phosphorus is a lot like nitrogen. It has to be mineralized by the soil microbial community, just like nitrogen. And again, you're only going to get about 1/3 of this out, maybe even a little bit less. Phosphorus is not quite as mineralizable in tissues. By the way, another factor you have to take into account, the longer the wheat plant, the longer you wait to terminate a wheat plant, the more lignin influence you have. Lignin is even more resistant to degradation, so it's going to be harder for that wheat plant to break down. So I think sometimes if we have really young wheat, that 50% number that Lloyd and I was too back in 2007 would have worked on really young, lush wheat. But man, once it gets tillered up there and it gets tougher, it's tough for microbes, and therefore it's not as available. But again, the numbers here, we had 16 to 32 pounds P2O5 equivalent. If you only get 1/3 of that, it's not a lot of bang for the buck. But in a field of wheat that was all fertilized with P and K, that salt test level that you base that recommendation on should still be a good basis. The salt test will still be a good basis for you to make an estimate of what you need for the next corn crop. Corn is a little more responsive to potash, so you want to check with AGR1 on this. But wheat is actually a little bit more responsive to phosphate than corn or soybean, so that will be adequate. The phosphate will be fine for both corn and soybean if you've applied it according to soil test. But on the potash side, you might want to think about updating it for either double crop beans or soybeans in that case. Another set of data, I'm going to let my IT person deal with that. Another set of data here. This is the influence of planting date on how much dry matter and therefore nutrient uptake. Edwin has some data where they planted a crop early and they had 0, 30, 60, and 90 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Then a crop that was planted about 3 weeks later, 0, 30, 60, and 90. Notice, on this late crop, it doesn't have a lot of biomass, but it had the same amount of nitrogen either from the soil or from the soil plus the fertilizer. So notice you're getting these higher tissue numbers relative to this early crop, because this early crop is growing more dry matter and it's stretching that nitrogen supply out. So this is why you can't actually use just your tissue concentration data from the lab to get some idea of what the status of the crop is. Can't use a chlorophyll meter for this either. You have to have some idea how much biomass you have. In some sense, a green seeker or canopy sensor might be a tad better if you're into that technology. But again, the story here is that clearly the nitrogen uptake was greater with the fall early planted crop plus a little bit of nitrogen. Didn't take much because you're not much difference here versus here. But these other ones, on a late planted crop, the fall nitrogen increased the tissue, but it didn't increase the dry matter much at all. So you have to be aware of, as you go through your fields, you're going to have a range of planting dates, most of you, and you have to be aware of that in terms of how you want to credit the nutrients therein. By the way, the PK data would be about the same as the uptake data in terms of the effect of either nitrogen or planting date on that crop. I'm going to stop at this point and entertain any questions or redirect them to Murdock before he bloody well goes to Florida. Any questions at this point? I'll be around for the Q&A later if something comes to your mind later. Thank you very much.